please mute your microphone and turn off your camera. Thank you. Then we can start. First of all, I'd just like to say that there are 3 people present from start today. Merete Østerud is here. She is the CEO and director of Start i Vestfold. She is also present and can answer questions in the chat. Then there's me, Jonathan Hall. I work as a business officer and a Start advisor in Færder municipality. And Halvard Schauf, who is going to take over from me a bit later, is a business advisor and a Start advisor in Tønsberg municipality. So we 3 people are present on this seminar and can answer questions. First of all, we'd like to begin by just sharing 1 or 2 experiences that we have from serving entrepreneurs in the course of very many years. For one thing, we noticed that starting a business is never easy. It always entails a lot of hard work and dedication over a longer period of time. This is something one just has to be prepared for. That's how it is. Someone has said that ideas are worthless, implementation is everything. And this is a theme that we're going to come back to later on in the seminar as well. How you do things and your capability to get things done is very important when you're starting a business. Things take time as well. Your business will almost certainly take longer to establish than you thought at the outset. Experience shows that as a general rule, most people have to reckon on not being able to take out a wage or a salary from their business for at least a year. So it's a good idea to think through at the outset whether you have enough money to survive without taking out a wage or a salary for a whole year. Another thing we've learned is that starting a successful company requires many talents, and it's very seldom that all the talents that are required are present in one and the same person. So it's a good idea to build a team around your idea. And if you think about it, none of the famous entrepreneurs that we've ever heard about, like Richard Branson or Steve Jobs in Apple or Elon Musk these days, have ever done things on their own. They've all had co-founders and a team around them. So think about that. It's seldom that one can manage alone. The last point here is we all make mistakes. Making mistakes is human. And be prepared for failures and mistakes. They happen. The most important thing is that you learn from your mistakes and don't repeat them. And if we think about it, many of the great entrepreneurs that we've heard of have a lot of, or not maybe a lot, but several spectacular failures in their baggage. Even the best of people can make mistakes. The program for our webinar today is this. We're going to start out with a few fun facts, which will show you that you are by no means alone.
Åpne presentasjonen, Jonathan. Jeg ser ikke presentasjonen din.
Sorry. Shall we go back and try again? Can you see it now?
Yep.
We are. So this is the program for today. First of all, for a few fun facts which will show that you are by no means alone. And then we'll talk about a number of things that it's a good idea to think about before you start. And we'll talk about a few things that you need to think about when you are actually getting started. There'll be a section on marketing and sales. And finally, we'll have a bit about network and which resources are available for you as a founder. First of all, the fun facts. Research shows that over 500,000 Norwegians, think about that, 10% of the population of Norway have dreamed at one or other time of starting their own business. So it's very common to have a dream of starting your own business. And of these 500,000 Norwegians who have dreamed of starting their own business, half of those have actually made definite plans for doing so. The sad thing is that statistics also show that 7 of 10 of those who start a business don't actually succeed, which is very sad. And this is something that Start wishes to do something about, and that's one of the reasons why we have these webinars and seminars and everything. It's in the hope of helping people to increase their chances of succeeding. Many people also try several times before they succeed in establishing a business. It's not uncommon, and there's also many people who go on to start several businesses after having first started one. A lot of people out there have good ideas, but just like I said a bit earlier on, as somebody else has said, implementation is everything. A good idea is in many ways worthless if you don't have what it takes to put it into practice. People's motives for starting a company vary a lot. I know some entrepreneurs who would be bored to death in a normal job. They just couldn't think of having in inverted commas normal job, and they have a constant stream of business ideas, and they roll out one business after another. Other people have a big dream. There's something they want to do. They want to make a difference in some particular way. Other people are at a crossroads in their life. Maybe they have lost their job, or they've gone stale in the job that they do have, and it may not be so easy for them to get a new job. So they think, why don't I start my own company, my own job, create my own job? And then of course there are those who are out of a job and they think, why, instead of just applying for a new job, why don't I start my own? Maybe they see a possibility. As a rule of thumb, experts are generally agreed that it's the qualities possessed by the person concerned, the entrepreneur behind the company, that is most important for the success of a company. That in fact, the idea behind the company is maybe not as important for the success of the company as we like to think. That in fact it's a lot of the largest factor in success is the person or people involved, the team behind the company. Before I go on, I forgot to say that we are actually going to have we will have a break after about 3/4 of an hour, so don't worry about that. There will be a chance to go to the toilet, get yourself a cup of coffee and things like that. We won't carry on for 1.5 hours at one go, so just telling you that. Before you start your business, there are a few things you ought to think through, and here are some of them. What actually is your idea? And are you able to articulate it in a way that other people can understand? And a good thing you can try is something that's called the lift test. You can imagine that you see a potential customer getting into a lift, and you have the time between now and when that person gets out of the lift again to explain to them what it is you can offer them and why they just have to buy it. That's a very good test to do in order to find out if you actually are able to articulate your ideas so that other people understand what it is you're doing. It's also a good idea to have formulated some kind of a written presentation, a business plan. Funding is also important. Have you got the money you need to carry it through? Have you got a realistic idea of what it could be going to cost you to start this company? And where will you get the money from? Then is the question of what kind of a company you're going to set up. And what is your company going to be called? And what kind of internet domain will you have? And what trademark will you have on your products or services? Let's talk a little bit about business ideas. Experience shows that people are often motivated at the start by an interest they have. There's something they really are very focused on, something that's very important for them, which is driving them and is their motivation for starting a business. And that's natural, and that's how it very often is. But we recommend that you try to see your idea from the customer's perspective, that you try to kind of change your perspective on what you're doing so that you look at it from the customer's perspective. Because it's after all the customer who you are wanting to buy your product or service, and you are there for them. So try to focus on one of the many problems that people have that you could help them to solve. Which customer need or problem is it you will solve? And who specifically has this problem? Sometimes people say to me that this is something what I'm going to do is it's for everybody. But actually, when you think about it, nothing is really for everybody. In theory, everybody could be going to buy the product or the service, but there are some people in particular who it's relevant for, and it's a good idea to have thought through who are my customers here. And I recommend that you think specifically who is the first person I would go to. That might help you think out who your customer is. Who would be the first person that I would go to? And what is your solution exactly? Can you articulate it? What exactly is your solution? And what makes you unique? What makes you stand out? Why will your product or service be chosen? And why will it be chosen instead of an alternative? An entrepreneur that I have, I think is a great guy, is a guy called Richard Branson. He's the guy behind Virgin. He's getting on in years now. But he says, my biggest sources of inspiration, and listen to this, my biggest sources of inspiration for new business ideas are the things that frustrate me. I know if something is annoying me, then there is usually a problem to solve or a better way of doing something. I've chosen a couple of examples of companies that we can use as a kind of, we can look at and see. And the first one I chosen is Snapchat. Snapchat started on a university campus as a picture sharing service for students. And what I've read a book about Snapchat, and I gather that to begin with it was pornographic pictures that were standing back and forth to each other. But this has developed to something much bigger and much different. It's developed into what they look upon themselves as being a camera company. And they say that we believe that reinventing the camera represents our greatest opportunity to improve the way people live and communicate. We contribute to human progress by empowering people to express themselves, live in the moment, learn about the world, and have fun together. So here, this says something about what they do and for whom. Kolonial.no is a Norwegian company. It's an online grocery service here in Norway. And their business idea is to do your weekly shopping cheaply in your food shop on the internet. Do your weekly shopping cheaply in your food shop on the internet. And they say that Kolonial.no is using technology to bring supermarkets to your front doorstep. Their native and personalized app for iOS and Android allows you to shop for recipes and groceries in no time. You can even choose a set menu for the week, and all your shopping will be done for you easily through the app. The average customer saves more than 60 hours a year by shopping for groceries online. So what they're saying is that you save time and you save money. So they're telling you that the value that you get from this is you save money and you save time. These days there are a number of discussions about whether business plans are a good thing, a necessary thing or not. Our experience though is that it's absolutely certain that you need some kind of document, some kind of presentation which you can use when you go to the bank to apply for a loan, when you approach possible investors and ask them to put money in your company, or when you approach possible partners who you'd like to cooperate with. And it's also important to have something that you can use as a tool for developing your company, so that you can put down in writing in some manner where your company is now, where your company idea is right now, and work from there and develop your company further. And in our experience, this list here is a list of the things that you ought to have in your business plan. You should articulate your business idea, your business model, which is how you market and sell your products or service, a market analysis, an analysis of your competitors, a little bit about the economy, how you see the economy in your company developing over time, finances, how this is going to be financed, your business, a plan for implementation, and a little bit about the structuring of your company. I say that there have been discussions about business plans, and in Start in Vestfold we are very keen on what I've put on the screen here now, which is called a business model canvas. This is business model canvas is a system which is developed by a guy called Osterwalder, who lives in Switzerland. And it's a way you can actually present your business on just one page. If you use this business model canvas here, you can communicate all the information you need about your company on just one page. You maybe need a larger plan in addition to this, but you can basically present everything you need on this one page. It contains all the elements you need to communicate your business plan. So let's have a closer look, shall we, at what the different elements are. First of all, back a little bit to what we talked about a bit earlier. What is your market segment, and who do you create value for? Who are your most important customers, and who will be your first customer? So, customers, value. Next thing is channels. How will you reach your customers? Which channels will you choose to both to market your products or your services, and how will you sell them? And then there's a matter of how you will maintain the relationship with your customers over time. What channels will you use to build a relationship with your customer over time? And we'll look at a few examples in a moment. This is one example. There's a company called Entirety. You can look them up on the net afterwards. This is an online service. It's in a way it's a personal trainer online, and they have not unnaturally made a lot of money now recently thanks to Corona, because what they offer is tailor-made online coaching for those who are looking for a healthier lifestyle. And that means that you can have a personal trainer in your living room online, and you don't have to go to a training center. This company is based in Tønsberg and Tallinn in Estland. It's the founders of this company. They came from Telemark. They moved here to Tønsberg and started the company here, and they are now quite a few employees, both in Norway and in Estland. And the founder there, Sander Andersen, says that it's Instagram and Facebook are their most important sales channels. They use Instagram and Facebook to sell, and then they have a website and an app which their members have on their mobiles, which they use for maintaining the contact with their customers and keeping their loyalty. And they also use emails for marketing. Another company, this one also in Tønsberg, is Orage. They are a very modern publishing company, and they say about themselves that they license large volumes of content financed by sale to the mass market in the Nordic countries. What Orage does is that they license content which they get from abroad, from England largely, and which they then sell on to the Nordic countries, both in physical publications, but now in greater and greater scale on the internet. And their latest two products are Tech Radar and Schoolroom. The Tech Radar is a licensed product from Britain, and he's the founder here says that the customers are recruited through the suppliers of technical devices to Elkjøp and Komplett, and examples of their customers are Microsoft, DNA, Nokia, Hawaii, and so on. This second product, which is called Skolerom, is a kind of a library, a digital library for school children. This is a new product, and they say that 140 schools have purchased a license for this school year. And how Orage sold this was by ringing all the municipalities in Norway in the course of 2020. So it's important, and Øyvind Terkelsen, who is the founder here, he says it's important to service your customers so they continue to purchase your services. And he says that when it comes to this product, Skolerom, he has pilot customers who provide members to a resource group who receive extra training and become super users, and an added resource for all the teachers in their municipality. And when it comes to Tech Radar, they deliver reports after having carried out marketing campaigns. So they are able to deliver in-depth statistics that nobody else can match, and which makes them of great value for their customers. Eivind also says it's important to find what is your competitive advantage and follow up with good information. What is it you're especially good at? I've got a third example here. Hvitt brød og kaffe is a series of cafes in Tønsberg, in the Tønsberg area. And I talked to the founder actually today, and she said something which I thought was really good, and I think you should take this one to heart. She says, the typical customer for Hvitt brød and kaffe is a 55-year-old lady and her friend. Families with younger children and man aged 35 who buys coffee to go. Also groups of girls aged 16 doing their homework. The value we create is that we give our customers a sense of belonging. I'd like to repeat that because I thought that was really... The value we create is that we give our customers a sense of belonging. We know our customers. It's safe and dependable. We are a part of the town environment that they know is there, and we're always open. Kjersti Hvitt said that, and Kjersti Hvitt has obviously a very crystal clear idea of what it is they are offering and to whom. So your business model should contain these things. A value proposition, which we've just talked about. What value do we deliver to the customer? And which of our customers' problems is it that we are helping to solve? Which customer needs are we satisfying? What are the key resources we have in order to deliver? What are our physical resources? What is it that is our special area of competence? What kind of human resources do we have, and what kind of financial resources? And what are the key activities we have to do in order to deliver on these value propositions? What is the content of our services and product? Who are our partners, who give us the possibility of delivering, and who are our key suppliers? Also, the costs. What are the most important costs in your business model? And where do they occur? And how are you going to get paid? This is not least a very important thing to think through. Many people who are offering digital services often experience having to offer the services free of charge at first, and then they have to think about what are they going to take, what are they going to get paid for, and how are they going to get paid? What is their business model for getting paid? Then let's go over to look a bit about market. Market research is important. You should know your market. And this is one of the things that I notice with people who start their own company, that their knowledge of the market, it gets greater over time. They get more and more into their market, and they get to know more and more about how things function. And this is very important. We can talk a little bit about what you can do at the start out in order to get a head start here. First of all, who are your competitors? Who are your competitors? Some people say to me that I don't have any competition. And what they mean when they say that to me is that there's nobody out there who offers exactly what I'm offering. And I think that what they're saying is that there's nobody out there who's offering exactly that pen or this cafe or this pizza or whatever it is that they're offering. And that may be true. Maybe your product is unique in a way, but you have competitors, because your competitors are those other people in the market who are solving the problem, the same need for your customers. When I, as a customer, decide that I'm going to go out to eat, at the start out, every kind of hotel, restaurant, cafe, whatever, is an alternative. Every kind of food is an alternative for to cover my need, to solve my problem. So all hotels, restaurants, cafes, whatever, they are at the outset, they are competitors in relation to my need. And that is often the case when it comes to any kind of product and service. So think through, who is it you're really competing with your product and service, and how will you manage to stand out in the crowd? What is it that will make you the one that's going to be chosen? What is it that's going to make your restaurant, your cafe, or whatever? That's just an example. But if I was going out to eat, what would it be that would make me decide that it was to you I would go? And to know your market better, you can start by asking potential customers about their needs and what they're looking for. You can use to the right there on the screen, you can see SurveyMonkey. That's a tool you can use to send questionnaires to people and ask. That's one way you can do some market research. Otherwise, I would very much recommend that you made some kind of a prototype for your product, an easy and a simple version, and tested it in practice, because it's the proof of the pudding is in the eating, as they say in English. And let a customer actually try your service, your product, and give you feedback on whether this is something they are willing to pay for or not. And if the feedback that you can get will give you the opportunity to develop your product or service so that it's more customer friendly. The second point here is to talk to your competitors. Some people don't want to speak to their competitors, but I would absolutely recommend that you do so. And what could be the worst thing that could happen? After all, the worst thing that could happen is that they just won't talk to you. But the experience we have is that most people will actually talk to you. And you can get a lot of information about how the market functions. And another thing is that your competitors may also be potential partners for you somewhere in the future. You increase your value as somebody that customers will, for the customer, if you are able, when you can't offer something, that you can say, but I haven't got this, but this guy here, he has, you can go to him. They'll know that if you come to you, they'll get the problem solved, even if you haven't got the solution yourself. Another thing is that very often you can maybe cooperate with a competitor in order to take bigger jobs, for example. So talk to your competitors. Know your competitors well. Talk to suppliers and distributors and vendors of competing products. Talk to business organizations about how the market functions. And use available relevant public business statistics. On your screen you can see Statistisk Sentralbyrå is suggested as a possible source of statistics. Another one is Brønnøysund, where all the companies are registered, and as you may or may not know, all limited companies have to report their accounts to Brønnøysund, so you can go in and you can see how companies are doing and see how companies in your particular line of business are doing. So you can, for example, using just this as an example, if you were starting a pizza restaurant or thinking of starting a pizza restaurant in Tønsberg, you could go in Brønnøysund and find all the pizza restaurants that are registered there, and all those that are registered as a limited company you'll be able to find their economic information, and you'd be able to find out how they're doing. And if you, for example, see that there are a multitude of pizza companies in Tønsberg and all of them are losing money, you might just think twice about starting yet another pizza restaurant. So that would be a useful thing to do. I come back to Hvitt Brød and Cafe once again because I would like to point out a thing here. I asked Kjersti Hvitt, who's the founder and who you can see in the picture here with the coffee cup. I asked her, what is it that is special about Hvitt Brød or Cafe? And she says, this is in Norwegian, unfortunately I haven't translated it, but she says that the founder still works on the floor. The founder is still in the shop, and the desire to create this atmosphere of belonging and is more important for her than making a lot more money. This is what's special, she says, about her cafe. So over to a very important thing, finances. How are you going to finance your startup? And people are very differently situated here. I know people who have set aside money, have planned their business startup well in advance, and they have put aside money, and they say to me that I've given myself a year now. I've saved up money so that I've got enough money in the bank, and I'm going to start my business now, and as long as I start earning money in a year's time, I'm okay, because I've got this buffer which I can live off for this year. That's some people. Some people do that. And of course, some people have a job, maybe a whole full-time job or part-time job, which they keep while they're starting their company, so they have something to live off while they are starting their company. And then there are other people who get support from what we've called fools, friends and family, which are basically their network. Maybe there's somebody they know who believes in them and believes in their idea, who's willing to either give them or loan them money, lend them money. And then you have the possibility of bank loans. That is generally for those people who own some property or something of value which the banks can take security in. It's not easy to get a bank loan for a new company if you haven't got anything to offer us security. And then there's a possibility of getting money from an investor. But there again, our experience is that most investors are not willing to put money into a company before that company has traction, as they call it, before that business has shown that it is a viable enterprise and has begun to earn money. It's very seldom that investors will invest in just an idea. If investors invest in a company which is just an idea, it's usually because they know that person especially well, and know that what they stand for, and know that this is likely to succeed because of things they've done before. So, but as a general rule, investors want to see some kind of sign that this is a going business before they actually will put money in it. And then the next option is what's called soft funding, which is financial support from the state or from public sector. Halvor is going to talk a bit about that later on. The main source of possible funding there is Innovation Norway, which he will be mentioning. Crowdfunding is a modern way of financing something, and crowdfunding is most suitable when you are going to develop either, for example, a computer game, or you're going to develop a physical product. Because what you can do there is that you can tell people through the crowdfunding platform what it is you're going to make, what you're going to produce, what your product is going to be, and you can ask them to put up the money so that you can make your prototype, your first example of your product. And just to use a silly example, if your product was some kind of a cup, then you could say that if people put up the money, then everybody who has contributed will receive one example of this special cup when it's been made. That's just an example. Crowdfunding is, however, being used these days so that you can use crowdfunding not only for financing a prototype, but you can also use it to finance a loan. Actually, you can finance a loan, and these days also you can actually crowdfund your limited company. Their shares can be sold through crowdfunding. So crowdfunding is worth looking at. Then we come to if you are unemployed and you're receiving benefits from NAV, you can actually apply to NAV to keep your benefits while you start up a business. But there are certain requirements here that you have to fulfill. Your company has to be a new company. It can't be taking over an old company. You have to be starting a new company, and it has to be a new registration in Brønnøysund, which is the register for companies. The company has to be run in your name, and it has to do business in Norway. You must register the NAV application before you start doing business. So if you are unemployed and are thinking of starting a business and do receive benefits from NAV and would like to continue to receive your benefits for up to a year while you start your company, then you must apply first before you start your company, before you start doing business and selling products or services. And you have to own at least 50% of the company. You can start your company with somebody else or more than one other person, but in order to be able to keep your benefits, you need to own at least 50% of the company. And the reason that NAV will do this is because they want you to become 100% self-sufficient, independent of benefits by the end of the period. So that's what they'll be looking at. They'll be looking at whether this business is likely to make you 100% self-sufficient by the end of the period, which is a maximum a year. So we just go quickly over to what kind of company are you going to start? And we'll be looking at three particular kinds of company. The one is sole proprietorship. Then there's the limited liability company, and then there's two different kinds of partnerships. If you look at the diagram, the cake diagram on the right hand side, you will see that in Norway today, there's a majority of companies who are organized as aksjeselskap, which is limited companies. And then you have the second largest group is enkeltpersonsforetak, which is sole proprietorship. And the smallest group is these partnerships. A sole proprietorship is a company where one person is responsible for the business. In a sole proprietorship, you run the business at your own personal risk. You are the company yourself, and you bear full personal economic responsibility. That means that if you start a business as a sole proprietorship, you run up a certain amount of debt, and then you close the company, you still have the debt because the company is you. The company's debt is your personal debt. The good news is that there's no statutory equity requirement. You don't have to put up any equity before you start, and there are a few formal requirements. So you don't have to have a board and that kind of thing. A limited liability company gives you limited personal responsibility. The company and you are two different entities, and you can have rights as an employee. Even if you own your company 100%, you can still be an employee of your company and have the rights that an employee has. That means that you can get sick money and that kind of thing, unemployment benefit if you should be laid off, and you can be laid off, permittert as it's called, and but on the other hand, it's required that you then have instruments of governance. You have a board and a general meeting, and you require equity of at least 30,000 Norwegian kroner. A limited company is more investor friendly because a limited company is something that can be sold, bought and sold as an entity. I would say that I'd like to say that many people look upon this. I mean, 30,000 kroner is not a lot of money, and I'd like to ask the question: if you don't have 30,000 kroner, how on earth are you going to start a company, really? Because it costs money to start a company, no matter what, and 30,000 kroner is not all that much money in that context. Besides which, this 30,000 kroner that you have as share capital is something that you can access from day one and use in your company to buy things. Another thing I would say is that I don't look upon this business of having a board or a general meeting as being a bad thing. Quite the opposite. It's a strength for a company to be able to have people on a board who can be a resource for your company, who can give you access to new markets, can help you find investors and so forth. It's a strength, not a weakness. Important considerations before you choose the type of company you're going to start. Risk is normally the most important consideration. If you are starting a business that involves a lot of economic risk, I mean where there's a large amount of capital involved, then it's normally a good thing to start a limited company rather than a sole proprietorship. And then you have the business of the cost of starting the business. As I say, if there are a lot of costs involved, well, a limited company is a good idea. Capital requirement: if you're going to need people to invest in your company, limited company. If you're going to sell the business in the future, limited company is probably the best bet. And there's a question at the end here: do you have to be employed in your own company? And the answer to that is no, you don't. But if you're going to take out a regular wage, then you do. You can take out a dividend from your company at the end of the year, and then you don't have to be employed. As an owner, you can take out a dividend. At the bottom here it says, are you uncertain about the risks you run? Contact an advisor in start. And that is because we can help you with this if you need help. and you can, for example, get a free hour's advice from a lawyer who can help you to look at your particular case. Naming your business and internet and your internet domain. All businesses must have a company name. The name of the company doesn't have to be the same as the brand name. The company name is what is registered in Brønnøysund, and the name of your internet domain can be the company name. It can be a name you trade under, or it can be another name or expression. And the name of your domain is an internet address which you rent. There's if you look on the top right-hand corner here, you can see that Patentstyret have a search motor which you can use, a search engine which you can use to discover whether the name you've been thinking of is available or not. Just a couple of things I'd like to say here, and one thing is that the name of your company needs to be something that people will remember. It doesn't have to be very related to what you do, although many people do choose a name which is related to what they do, like there's something called rørleggergutter, which is what is it? Plumber boys, they're called. And then nobody's in any doubt as to what they do. But on the other hand, if your name is a name that sticks in the minds of people, it doesn't need to have to do anything to do with what you do, just as long as it sticks in the minds of people, so that when people think like Muni or Rema 1000, when anybody thinks of buying groceries, they think of your name. When it comes to what you have as an internet domain, I would say that it needs to be something that people will remember. It also needs to be something that people will spell right and easy for people to spell right. And that means that the name doesn't need to be too long, too complicated, because if people don't spell it right, they won't come to you, won't reach you on the internet. So think about that. A simple, easy name to spell. Then we take a 5-minute break before Halvard will take over. So we now have a break, and we'll break until 2 minutes past 11 when Halvard will begin. I'll let the picture stay on the screen and just take a cup of coffee, go to the toilet, whatever, and we are back here at 2 minutes after 11, and I say thank you very much.
We just got in a question about the fees for registered companies. I put the link in the chat, so you can find all the fees for the different companies. Jonathan?
Hallo?
Du setter på presentasjonen så jeg får tilgang.
Ja, kan Merete svare på spørsmål, for da ser ikke jeg chatten.
Ja.
Okay, we'll start up again in just a minute when Jonathan gets the presentations back up. Okay, now we're going to talk about marketing and sales. It doesn't matter how good your business idea is, if you can't sell it, it won't make you a profit. And I don't have control over the presentation. There it goes. Okay. Before you start marketing and sales, it's important to consider who your customer is. Who are you going to sell to? Because there is a big difference if you're selling to the public sector or private people or private businesses. The public sector has a lot of rules and regulations on how they buy services or products, and they have agreements that regulates that. So if you're going to go to a municipality and sell your products or your services, you have to look into the requirements to do so. And it's quite different from a private business. So that's important to think about, because that might change your strategies. And of course, there's a difference in products or services, or things that might be different depending on what you're selling. Presentation won't move on. There it goes. Okay. There are when people come to us and ask for advice, they're sometimes a little confused over the enormous amount of channels available. Some businesses might profit from using traditional marketing ways, like booking meetings, calling people, shop, outdoor advertisement, boards, word of mouth, of course, friends and contacts, very important, and advertising in newspapers or other places. Direct mail, because of GDPR, there's of course a lot of regulations surrounding that too. Just make sure that is in order if you start sending people mail and registering their information. And of course, editorial content in media, which appears to the reader something that media has produced and it's not coming from you, might be a good idea to follow. Of course, digital marketing, content marketing, sponsored content, bloggers and things, they can use that a lot, and advertising on social media. Email, of course, TV, and of course, if you have a website, which most of you probably should, a search engine optimization and using the right keywords so that you will get up in the Google search. but there's a lot of them. And the same for sales channels. You have to think about, are you going to have a web shop, a physical shop, or are you just going to call people? Business to business, of course, booking meetings, visiting them, and Facebook and Instagram also now become sales channels. A lot of businesses base most of their sales on Instagram or Facebook. So you might think about what, if that is something, now my computer is a little slow now. I see that, okay. What we normally recommend in this jungle of opportunities is that you find out where your customer is and where can you meet them. If they are on Facebook, you should probably be on Facebook. If they are other places, that's probably where you should be. And in the beginning, it can be a little overwhelming, tackling all of these possibilities at the same time. Choose 1, 2, or 3 to start with, and then you can expand. Choose something you can handle in your current situation, something that's easy. And if you use Facebook and Instagram, it is also free. So choose wisely and a prioritized order, and expand as you go along. Another thing everyone has to deal with is the financial management, and we're not going to go into depth about this today because this is a separate course that we have that takes 2.5 hours, but we're just going to say a little bit about it. Every company, no matter what company form you choose, must do accounting in some way or another. There are different requirements to the different company types, but the baseline is that accounting is something you have to do. And the accounting, the system of recording and summarizing business and financial transactions, and something that you can analyze and make reports from. The income statement, operating results, is a financial statement of a business showing the details of revenues, costs, expenses, losses, and profit for a given period. That's the definition. And on the other side, you have the balance with the assets versus liabilities and equity. And you have to report on these things. If you're new to Norwegian business, of course, there are different rules than other countries. You have to be conscious of these things, and we recommend almost everyone coming to us are dealing with how are they going to do this accounting. Wait. That was one too much. Are you going to do the accounting yourself? And to answer that, it's probably wise to consider if you are able to do. To what extent can you do your accounting correctly? And late payments of taxes and VAT in Norway can result in fines, and these fines are pretty expensive. So the question is, do you know the Norwegian accounting rules? And if you do, or someone in your team does, do you have time to do the accounting yourself? If you go out all day and sell and sit all night making accounting, and then next morning you're going out to sell again, that's probably wise to consider making someone else do the accounting for you, who knows what they're doing. It takes 4 years to be a certified accountant in Norway. and there's a lot of information to know. Everything doesn't apply to your business, of course, but it's still a lot of knowledge that you need to have to do this correctly. So our advice is to connect with an accountant in some way or the other inside your team, or you hire one. But on the other side, it's important that you connect with the economy in your business and don't just leave everything for the accountant and never look at the numbers yourself, because you must understand what happens with the finances in your own business. In addition to the accounting, the result of the accounting, of course, leads to tax. And Skatteetaten has a lot of reports that they need from every company. Skattemelding is for sole proprietorship, a tax report, and skattemeldingen for limited companies is a tax report for them. So there's two different. You have to choose the right one for you. But if you have a limited company, you have to make a report of ownership. Who owns all the shares in your company? This must be reported to Skatteetaten every year. And if you have employees, there's something called A-melding, a monthly report of workers in your company, because people working for you are going to pay taxes also. So Skatteetaten need the information who works for you right now, so they can fix the taxes for them. And of course, there is a report for the VAT, the VAT, MVA, merverdiavgift in Norwegian, that you have to report. That is every 2 months. And that is things that many people, when they start up, they don't know about this, they forget about it, they don't know how to do it, and they get a fine from the government because they didn't pay their VAT in time. So the question is, who pays VAT? To collect VAT from your customers and forwarding it to Skatteetaten, you must sell VAT mandatory products or services. Merverdiavgiftsloven, the VAT law, tells what services and products are exempt from VAT and what must pay VAT. You have to make sure that you understand if the things that you sell requires you to collect VAT from your customers. Turnover must exceed 50,000 Norwegian. If it's under that, you don't need to worry about the VAT yet. But the when you pass 50,000, you have to pay VAT, and it is in the last 12 months. It's not based on year like the accounting does. It looks 12 months back. So if you sold something, if you sold for 30,000 in December and you sell for 30,000 in January, okay, you're over the limit, you must collect the VAT. And the way you can, you must, in order to collect VAT legally, you must register for that. So when you get near the limit of 50,000, it's important that you contact someone who can help you and get registered and start collecting VAT in the right way. It's also important that your activity must be considered a business and not a hobby. Unfortunately, Skatteetaten is not 100% clear what is a hobby and what is a business. But if you're getting close to 50,000, I would get some help to consider whether or not you are a hobby or you are a business. If you're making money, it's normally a business. But the limit 50,000, remember, when you get close to that, get help. There are many who want to help people starting up businesses, and the ecosystem and public agencies in Vestfold area that help you are many and plentiful, and they're also different. Just gonna get the next picture up here. Of course, we have Start, which is us. And what we do is that we have seminars with different topics, everything from what to social media marketing. We have team buildings, many different themes. You can follow it on activities on our website, and everything is free. That's one thing that we do, this seminars. And we have a network of helpers, that is accountants, banks, lawyers, and so on. And they also participate, or they are the speakers on these events. In addition to that, you can contact your local counselor in Start and get an hour to speak about your business idea. And we are trying to push you in the right direction and find out if you're rigged or what you need help with. We can also connect you with the accountant or a lawyer as 1 free hour of counseling after you've been speaking with us. And that is the base. If you call Innovation Norway about your business idea, they will probably refer you to Start to begin with. I apologize for my computer being really slow today. I think my computer has stopped, Jonathan. Will you find the next slide for me? Okay, here are the different helpers that you can contact in the Vestfold area, and Colab, which is a hub in Larvik. You can rent a place there and have an office place and work with other entrepreneurs. The same is Gründeriet in Sandefjord and High Five in Tønsberg. So you can rent different kind of places, but check with the one that is local for you and see what their offerings are, because there might be a little difference in the renting conditions and so on. There's also Gründernettverket. They work in a different way. They put together teams of entrepreneurs that may be starting a business very different than your own, and they help each other, and Gründernettverket enable them to help each other and make seminars and support them in any way that they can. So that's a little different. Celicia is a technology incubator. So it's like Colab, Gründeriet, and High Five, but they have a technological perspective. So if you're making an invention, a machine or something, this is probably where you should seek information. In addition to that, Innovation Norway, of course, they have a telephone line, and they're also the main source of finances for startups. So there are many who will help you around in Vestfold. Contact the one that is right for you. Most of these services are free. Before you start, something's important to think about. The financial control. Like I talked about before, don't put everything for the accountant. You must have control. The accountant can do the technical things, but you must understand your business. The liquidity, the cash handling methods, cash handling, do you have enough money to pay your bills at the right time? That is a very important thing to have control over. And that, of course, includes the methods of payment. How are you going to collect the money from your customers? And how much time are they going to have? Are you going to give them to pay you? If you give them 30 days, they will probably use 30 days. If you give them 10 days, they will maybe pay you after 14. So think about how you're going to collect the money. To have financial control, you also need a budget, and you need control of the accounting, taxes, and the VAT. And this is very important. You get any problems here that can cause disruptions in your plans and be very time consuming for you to fix. So especially in the beginning, this is very important. Okay, if you require more assistance, Start is here. And if you see the address here to Start in Vestfold, there's also a link there to Vext i Vestfold, which is a collective site for all the startup helpers in Vestfold at one website. So if you forget all the names of Colab and High Five and all those, go to Vext in Vestfold, you'll find everyone there. And like Jonathan said before, today we're not going in depth. We're just touching the tip of the iceberg on all the different themes. Contact us to get more help on what's important for you. Now I'm going to I put up in the chat a link to the business model canvas that Jonathan spoke about before. So if anyone you want to check out that, you can go to Innovation Norway and download an explanation and the business canvas model, so you can look at that. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.